What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the podcast. As always, I am Justin Harold, your host, and with me, Jeff Santa, my co-host. This is the Cleveland Pulse podcast, but for the first time ever, this is an audio visual podcast. This is going to go up on my YouTube. I'll talk about all that stuff later, but this is one thing that me and Jeff really wanted to do. We talked about when we first started this that at one point we wanted to, get video and have, us talking, show stats and stuff like that. And so for the 10th episode, we've made it. We've done 10 of these now. We wanted to try to do something special coming off of a Browns win on Thursday Night Football against the Cincinnati Bengals. We thought that we'd do a review and a preview for the Browns, and 10's a pretty significant number. So this is our time, and we're rolling with it. So Jeff, how you doing?
What's up, baby? I'm doing good, little different setup, but got to break some out for our 10th episode. And even though, kind of with all this, with everything going on, even when we first started talking about this, we kind of imagined, doing it in person and having like a normal, like professional podcast setup kind of, with like the mics in front of us and kind of like a wide view, and you could see the both of us, conversing back and forth. So, I mean, this is pretty close to what we envisioned from the start. Hopefully we get to that goal eventually, but I mean, I like the Zoom setup, and I think it's going to be interesting, hopefully with the screen sharing in order to really illustrate our points more in depth.
Yeah. And like you said, this has been an idea for us for a long time, but to do this podcast episode in particular in this format is probably less than like 12 hours actually thought of. Like, I really didn't even think about it until me and you started texting today about what time we should do this and all that. But you were jazzed about this being episode 10, and with that being such a significant thing, I also wanted to do something to commemorate the moment, and this is it. And I feel good about it. I upgraded in Zoom. I was a basic Zoom user, and I upgraded now. So, but yeah, we're feeling pretty good. As you can see, I'm wearing my Browns jersey. I can see you're wearing some Indians gear.
Yep.
Love it. So, but yeah, we're feeling pretty good. The Browns won 35-30 against the Cincinnati Bengals on primetime. The game itself sounds a lot closer than what it was in my mind, but it was kind of, the feeling that I had being there was we were in control of that game all the way until like the last offensive series by the Bengals. And, there's a lot of good things that the Browns did in this game on mainly the offensive side of the ball. There were a few points that my dad brought up to me via the defense, having some good points there and everything. But there are also the bad negative points that we should talk about that are going to stem mostly from the defense. But Jeff, you were in Pittsburgh with some of your buddies. How was that atmosphere?
The atmosphere was good. I mean, it was a primetime game, so that helps out a lot. They like watching primetime games, just something to do during the week, regardless of if it's the Browns or not. And they like seeing, the competition in the AFC North. So it was a fun time, and I'm excited to talk about this game, man, because you do make some good points about how the score, the box score compared to the final score is, not a complete and total correlation. And there definitely was some, negative talking points, but kind of flipped on its head from what we were talking about after week one. Definitely a lot more positives after this game than when we played the Ravens.
Absolutely. And so this is going to be our first attempt at it, me sharing my screen just to show you guys some of the stat lines and everything from this game. So obviously, like we said, it was 35-30. We were at home, but if you look at total yards and everything, the Browns beat the Bengals 434 to 353. The Bengals, obviously, they were down the majority of the game, so they had Joe Burrow had to throw the ball more than Baker. He threw it for over 60 times. If you look here, 61 times. It's absurd. I mean, he probably had ice on his shoulder immediately after that game. I mean,
it's crazy to me. I don't know, man. I think that's just subpar coaching. I mean, I hate to to rip right off the rip there. But when you got Joe Mixon, I don't know how your quarterback could throw 61 times, but that's just me.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe that was part of the, game plan is maybe they knew coming into this game that they were going to take Mixon out of the run game. I mean, 16 carries isn't bad, but 46 yards, a 2.9 average, you're not going to get first downs off of that, off of first and second down tries. And so, but I think, any team that watched us in week 1 against the Ravens knew that our linebacking core, our back seven in general, was pretty poor. And again, for the most part, was pretty poor against the Bengals. The Bengals did the one thing I talked in the previous podcast about with the Browns defense being so poorly at coverage, was they split out 5 wide a lot, and they took advantage of our coverage and everything. It was really funny being at the game with my dad. He would look up at the scoreboard, and he like, after like the first 3 or 4 tackles made by Tavierre Thomas, he's like, yeah, this Tavierre Thomas is pretty good. He's already got 3 or 4 tackles. And it took me looking at him, and then the next play happening for him to realize that Tavierre Thomas was making all those tackles because his guy was getting all the receptions off of him. And that was just one example of how bad our coverage has been because of some injuries and some just, our linebacking core we knew coming into this season in general was just bad, but we've had injuries at the cornerback and safety position. So,
I mean, look at that box score, though. It's kind of crazy to me how they even scored 30 points. They didn't have a 100-yard rusher or a 100-yard receiver. So, I mean, yeah, we gave up 30 points, but if you would take a screenshot of this box score and show it to me, my projection for a final score line for that team would not be 30 points. I would say way less.
You know what really upset me about, like, just talking about this box score and everything? I have not, like, since probably like the end of last season, I just did not look at anything that Colin Cowherd would tweet or anything. And for some reason, it popped up on my timeline. Like, I don't know how it did, but it did. And his tweet, it was, and I'll pull it up maybe, it was, Baker Mayfield is the 4th best quarterback in his division.
Oh, my God.
I was
saw
like,
that too. He's such a clickbaiter.
Dude, he knows how to rile. He knows that, like, Cleveland has the most passionate fans about football in general. And so he knows that, like, that he'll get views and stuff for taking that stance. And then the next morning when he does his show, he'll get a bunch of angry Browns fans and he'll get ratings and everything. But it's just absurd because, look, Joe Burrow, he didn't throw an interception. That's great. He threw for 61 times, though, and got 316 yards off of what was very poor. He took advantage of the middle, and he took advantage of, new guys trying to come in and, take the places of guys like Greedy Williams and Kevin Johnson and Grant Delpit. A lot of bad coverage, and just, like, I'll say our defense is not – the back seven is not great right now. Right. But going into this Redskins game, that could be a different situation. But like you were saying, I mean, the box score just doesn't show that the Bengals were ever really, 316 yards and 37-61. Good game, Joe Burrow, but I know you were hurting for the majority of that game, and you were playing a losing game. So,
and I mean, if you didn't watch the game, you just pulled up the score on your phone, you kind of missed the whole narrative. I don't want to make excuses for our defense, but we never really needed to make a stop. We were in control the whole game, and our defense, I have faith in our defense to make big plays. I mean, Myles Garrett makes a huge play in that game. So it's not like, I mean, I would like for our defense to give up less points, but we controlled the whole tempo of the game. We were always in the lead, and I was rarely ever in doubt that they were going to take the lead from us.
Absolutely. And so we're looking a lot at the Bengals stat line, but let's go over here. Let's go to, the big talking point of Nick Chubb, the two-headed monster of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. I mean, look at this. This is exactly what the Browns should just do every game. I told Jeff, and I've said this multiple times, if the Browns carry the ball 30 times, they're probably winning that game. I put it up against almost anything that they're going to win that game. And between Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, they had over 200 yards rushing and 4 touchdowns between the two of them. Nick Chubb, 2 on the ground, Kareem 1 on the ground and 1 in the air. These two, I mean, truly, and it was really weird because the Bengals started off with the ball and they had run down a lot of clock time. But then for the rest of the game, we controlled the clock. We were just running the ball like
Yep.
nonstop. We carried the lead eventually. They went down, scored 3, and then we got the ball back and scored 7. We were in the lead. We got a stop, scored again. And from that point on, it really never seemed until that last series that like anything was at stake. So, you know, this is just what it should be every game. It should be Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt carrying the ball between the two of them and, rushing for over 150 yards plus.
I totally agree. I mean, the first 3 stat lines is really the whole story for me. I mean, what did we say on the last episode, episode 9? Baker, a little bit more, pass less and be a little bit more accurate. 16 to 23, 219. I was so badly hoping he wasn't going to throw a pick, but it was like it wasn't a back-breaking interception, so I was okay with it. Run the ball 30 times. I mean, 32 carries between, probably the best running back tandem in the National Football League. So I mean, not to go kind of crazy, but that looks like kind of like a Patriot-esque stat line. Brady throws the ball 16 times, like 5, 6, 7 years ago. Brady throws the ball 16 times, and they win. Their defense plays good enough, and that's kind of what it reminded me of. I mean, I'd rather have Baker throw less and be more accurate than have Joe Burrow throw the ball 61 times.
Right, and for whatever Colin Cowherd wants to say about Baker being the 4th best quarterback in his division, there are some interesting stats and PFF markers that have been made about QBR and Baker actually currently being number 2 behind Lamar Jackson against Joe Burrow and Ben Roethlisberger. But you're talking about him throwing and completing 16 of 23 for 219, 2 touchdowns and an interception. First of all, being in person and watching that game, I can tell you personally that felt like 2018 Baker. The whole atmosphere and 6,000 people in that stadium, it felt like a normal game whenever the moments were there. And I mean, it was awesome. It felt great. But I can tell you that was 2018 Baker at his best. And if you go back, Baker doesn't throw for a lot of 300-yard games. And that's perfectly fine by me. I'd rather have him be more accurate, have him make the throws that I know he can make and keep it to 16 and 23 and just have a sustained game than him, going out there and having to force things a little bit too much. To go off of that point, though, I think one of the storylines is that Kevin Stefanski called a pitch-perfect game on offense. There was literally not a single thing on any series that was in question of why would you do that or why wouldn't you do this compared to that. And for Baker, every pass, every throw he had didn't look forced. It looked like normal Baker going to hit, every other wide receiver when he could. And that first series that we scored, he didn't force the ball to Odell. That's fine. The next drive he comes out, throws he rolls out to his left. And that's another thing. There were a lot of times where Baker rolled out to his left and threw really good throws. But that throw to Odell, man, was that perfect.
Just seemed like everything was designed for intent. I mean, I'm fine with Stefanski. If you have a formula and we stick to that formula and it's, if it works some weeks and, it doesn't work. I mean, obviously we're not going to be able to execute every single week. In a perfect world, you would hope so. But I mean, talk about perfect formula and perfect execution. I even texted you the first drive, maybe even into our second drive, Baker 5 for 5, 5 different receivers targeted. I mean, that's just the perfect formula for a guy like Baker. And like you said, we don't even really target OBJ. Like we don't force anything to him. He ends up with the most receiving yards in the stat sheet.
Yeah. And I mean, like you said it. I mean, look at how many different guys he ended up hitting 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I mean,
we got the talent.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, a lot of guys are very unselfish on this team, and that's a huge plus. And I actually give credit. Kadero Hodge is not one of my favorite wide receivers on this team. If you look at this list, there's one person in my mind who's missing, and that's Rashard Higgins. But he shares that 3 spot with Kadero Hodge. But there was a really excellent play by Baker, rolling out to his right on a boot, and instead of hitting a guy who was a little bit shorter in terms of yards, who was a little bit more open than Kadero, he went a little bit further down the field and hit Kadero going into the sideline. And I'm telling you, it felt like vintage 2018 Baker, and I think things are starting to turn around and starting to click for this offense.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see Higgins, more, but it's just one of those offenses that it's kind of like somebody's gonna, not get the ball. I mean, it's unfortunate for those guys, but I mean, think about it. That game didn't even feature David Njoku, who had flashes of greatness week 1. So, I mean, that's even crazier to think about in the whole scheme of things. But I mean, I even though the defense gave up 30 points, I'm excited to talk about them just as much, if not more.
Yeah, and I mean we can hop into that right now. I stopped sharing for a moment to try to look some things up on the PFF Cleveland Browns page. But let's get into the defense, and I'll let you start there while I continue to look, and then I'll pull up the stats.
First thing, here's the hot take for the offense. This is what you should have said back to Colin Cowherd. Even if he thinks Baker's the 4th worst in the division, which he's not, we have the best 2 running backs in the division.
Oh my God, dude! I mean,
Kareem Hunt would get the majority of the carries for the other 3 teams in our division. I'm convinced.
Oh yeah, I mean, the one tweet that I saw like coming out of that game is that Kareem Hunt is still a top 10 running back and would still just like put up 1,000-yard. I mean, he could. I don't know how easy it would be for running backs, a tandem, to put up 1,000 apiece.
Right.
But this could be a duo that could do that.
Yep.
Very, very. I think I'm trying to think of like a duo in the past couple of years or just in general, but this is the only one that I really think of when I think of 2,000-yard rushers on the same team.
Yeah, I agree. I think they got the chance to do it, especially if we get out to some leads and they want to hand the ball off to Kareem and get Chubb some rest.
Right. So let's go into the defense, because actually, hold on. We'll stay with the offense really quickly. I want to make the point you shared a tweet with me, and I'm going to pull it. Yeah, PFF tweet about the Browns' offensive line and how well. Oh, it's not even a PFF actually, Jeff. It's a Jake Trotter tweet.
Yep.
And so I'll pull it up really quickly for everyone to see here. So right here, you can see the Browns' top priority this offseason was upgrading the O-line. Went out and got Jedrick Willis with the 10th pick and got Jack Conklin, right tackle from the Tennessee Titans. And so, there was a lot going into the offensive line in the offseason. So far, Cleveland ranks 4th in the run win rate and 7th in the pass block win rate. And from last year, compared to last year, big upgrade. I mean, it was just huge compared to what we saw last year, and Baker just running for his life. That's legit what he was doing the entirety of last year, was running for his life.
That's why I haven't been this thrilled with the Browns draft, in a while. This offseason, just because we knew we wanted. I mean, we knew that we wanted a stud offensive lineman, and we went out and added pieces as well. So I think a lot of the game, that goes unmentioned and helps you win football games are the trenches on both sides. And I've never been more optimistic about the Browns on both sides of that argument, offensive line and defensive line.
Absolutely. And so I'm going to share my screen again so people can see the stat lines. So we're coming back to this really quickly. I want to point out that the Browns, even against the Ravens, who we did get smacked by a little bit, the run-stopping defense has actually improved very much so. For the longest time, we were one of the worst teams in terms of rushing yards allowed. And these past 2 games, we've gone up against Joe Mixon, who last year was a very good rusher, and the Ravens, who have a almost like not star-studded, but a tandem of running backs, and Lamar Jackson, who are very good on the ground. We've held them to. I gotta pull up the stat line for the Ravens. But I want to say that we held them to under 100 yards rushing as
I think
well,
so. Yep.
and that's been one of the keys for the Browns, obviously. And we go down here and we look at the first downs. Obviously, the Bengals were playing from behind, so they got a few more attempts and everything, or than we did that we even needed to get. But total
Third down,
plays,
third down efficiency looks good. It looks really good actually, and no sacks allowed.
yeah, that's the big one. No sacks allowed, and good by Baker as well. He moved pretty well in this game as well in terms of stepping up into the pocket and also running for a couple yards. Um, the sacks allowed by the Bengals, like you were alluding to earlier, Myles Garrett making huge plays. Even Porter Gustin, who
Yep.
was filling in for an injured Adrian Claiborne, who was filling in for an injured Olivier Vernon. No surprise there, because the dude's always hurt. But these stat lines are pretty darn good. The penalties, always feel like the Browns have a ton of penalties.
Yep.
But like we were alluding to earlier, the one stat line that I take away is the 88 to 58, and then you come down here to time of possession with 33 minutes and 26 minutes. Usually the team that controls time of possession is the team that's going to either, be winning the game, or they're probably getting thoroughly smacked. This was a very weird game just because I said in that first series for the Bengals, they ran the ball and threw the ball in the middle of the field and took a lot of time off the field. But after that, the Browns would just come out and consistently, they would run the ball and either Chubb would break loose for 20, 30, or Hunt on that last series would go for his 40-yard one. I want to say it was 40 some yards, and we would score really quickly, but we were running the ball and then never felt like you were saying third down efficiency, 5 of 8. We were doing things right that entire game. So, but let's move on to the defense a little bit. So I'm not as, don't really want to talk about them that much because I think there's a lot more negative, but I'm going to let you start off with what you have to say.
My biggest talking point, at least from this week, was Porter Gustin. I don't like zoning in on one player, but talk about a guy just completely stepping up. Just going out there and playing with fire. Like I know Myles Garrett is good. Like he's great. I understand that, and I'm really glad that we paid him. But I feel like there's been like glimpses in the first 2 games, it is early, where it just seems like our defensive line is just super unmotivated. And I think when Porter Gustin came in, it kind of just lit a fire under him a little bit. He was easily, when we were on defense, I was always watching him, especially in the second half, just to see what he was doing, just to see, his pressures on Joe Burrow. And I think that hopefully he's a diamond in the rough. And even Jake Elliott is kind of turning out to be someone who, or not Jake Elliott, Jordan Elliott, Jake Elliott's kicker, Jordan Elliott, who we drafted this year. He's turned out to be hopefully a steal. So I feel like it's kind of rare where the Browns, at least especially since Baker has since we drafted Baker and Myles Garrett and our younger defensive players, I feel like we've had opportunities to get above average players, but a lot of championship teams and a lot of teams win the Super Bowl, they need not so to say a random, but someone who wasn't on people's radar to step up and really play way above their potential. I could almost throw it back to Joe Schobert last season, how nobody really thought he was going to have that type of season, at least I didn't. So if the Browns organization could have internal above average player development, that's a whole another layer added to our ceiling.
Yeah, and you singling in on Porter Gustin, he played really well. He did have the one face mask call on him,
right?
Which was super unfortunate because he would have had another sack.
Yep.
Or he would have had another pressure into a sack that would have put the Bengals into an awful second and deep or third and deep. I don't know what the situation is, but it was deep at that point. But bailed them out there. But you're singling in on, a guy that's a diamond in the rough. I want to single in on two players. I was talking about Javier Thomas kind of, being, lacking in his coverage and everything. And, I've said it in the past in episode 9 that Andrew Sendejo is a liability and all that. I want to talk about, and I'm going to share the screen again, these two guys right here. Can't see it. This is 21, Denzel Ward.
Great
the
game.
Dude's just been phenomenal. He wasn't, you didn't hear his name in the Ravens game. You only heard it once because, no one will throw to his side. And guess what? Burrow tried to do that with AJ Green, and Denzel Ward did not let that man have anything. And to the credit of Terrence Mitchell, he also played a phenomenal game. And he's filling in for two guys that we are potentially going to get back in this week for Greedy Williams and Kevin Johnson. I saw a tweet saying, it's going to be a shame to watch Terrence Mitchell kind of see the back of the roster again because of Greedy coming back and playing the 2 and Kevin Johnson playing the slot. It's not like feasible, but I would move Terrence Mitchell to free safety and replace Andrew Sendejo with him in a heartbeat. But there's also Ronnie Johnson Jr., who we traded for, that also needs to get a chance to show what he's made up. Hopefully, long week, he'll come back and be a starter for us. But for the amount of times that Joe Burrow threw, a lot of those incompletions came from him trying to target guys like Denzel and Terrence Mitchell, and these two played out of their mind. Terrence Mitchell last year, when he had to fill in, played phenomenally, and he was, there was a point in time where the front office was thinking about either letting him go or letting TJ Carey go. Obviously, they let TJ Carey go, and I think that was the right decision. I'm a huge Terrence Mitchell fan, and I hope that he's a guy that stays for a long time. But the defense in general, not a lot of shining points. Let's get into some of the negatives. And so obviously I've been talking about it. The back 7, besides our 2 corners, are not great. Our linebacking core is decimated. Mac Wilson, Jacob Phillips, and then you got Sione Takitaki. I'm going to make this perfectly clear right now. Why that man isn't just being blitzed on every down is beyond me, because the dude cannot cover. I'm sorry. There's so many times I watched him just be so far away from the guy he was supposed to be covering and making a tackle. It was almost like Javier Thomas. We have no coverage linebackers. It's just the point. And BJ Goodson also, why is he not being blitzed every down? Because he's not covering anyone. I can guarantee you that. He's not covering a tight end. He's not covering a running back. I really hope Mac Wilson comes back. And I'm surprised that there has been no move to make a free agent signing for a coverage linebacker. But, Jeff, what do you got on this subject?
Yeah, we just need to get healthy, man. The linebackers, if I'm anybody coming to play the Browns, I'm just trying to completely pick apart our linebackers because they're so below average. I mean, you're 100% right. They can't cover anybody. I don't know. I felt like Goodson, I felt like he looked better this week. I don't know if he played better. I don't think he did, but I felt like he was trying to be in the right spots. I just don't think they've had a lot of time practicing together. And, no preseason's killing the whole league right now, especially with how many people got injured this week, it seemed like. So, it's just a culmination of a lot of things. And hindsight's 2020, but Dylan Schobert right now looks kind of bad. Looks a little bit bad.
Him and Kersey. Letting both of them go was not what I thought was going to happen at all. I thought one of them was for sure, one was going to be out the door, one was staying. And early on, it was Joe Schobert was gone. And I was like, all right, I was a big Christian Kirksey fan, and then they just let him go. And I was like, they should have done what they did with Olivier Vernon, where they just restructured his contract.
Should have tried.
They let both of those guys go. Obviously, Christian Kirksey has been injured in the past. That'd be the reason to let him go. Liability there in that term, but was still very good when he played. Joe Schobert, a Pro Bowler, let him go because of money reasons. Ended up not getting paid as much as I thought people were talking him up to be. So the linebacking core is the worst part. People are going to attack the middle of our defense, the middle of the field, every down. I don't know why you wouldn't.
Looking back at it, though, that's kind of just like if I had to go back and like rethink about how this offseason went, and I'm not really sure about. I know you were more like into the linebackers. You know, I mean, obviously, Clay Matthews is always is a name that you like talking about, but it seemed like Mack and Kirksey or Schobert would have been great. But at the same time, I just want to know why we were going so hard after Clowney. Like we were going so hard after Clowney, we should have been looking for a linebacker.
Yeah, and the stuff with Clowney upsets me as well. But the fact that they still haven't made a move is interesting. Either they just don't think that it would, be beneficial at this time, or the guys that are out there would probably ask for too much money. There's Nigel Bradham, who he would improve our linebacking core. He could put him anywhere and he'd start. Clay Matthews, same thing. He's played all three linebacking positions. He would start anywhere right now. They probably just don't want to spend money because, they're worried about guys next year having to re-sign guys and keeping a core. And maybe they think, all right, well, our offense is secured. Our corners are secured. Our D-line secured. We'll just wait till the draft to draft new linebackers. And maybe they're giving guys a chance. A lot of, BJ Goodson's on a one-year contract. Carl Joseph is on a one-year contract. Kevin Johnson's on a one-year contract. Jojo Natson's on a one-year contract. All the guys that are on one-year contracts are getting a chance to play for an extension and a new contract. BJ Goodson, right now, no, I don't want him back. Carl Joseph still needs to show me a little bit of that. I was pretty jazzed when we got him. I mean, the dude laid wood when he played before. Haven't really seen that lately. Oh, Andrew Sandejo, no thank you as of right now.
It's early. It's early.
It is early. I think the first game was very bad in terms of what could have happened. And then I think the Bengals like their 5 wide receiver set because they have so much talent there. So we'll see with this Washington game will definitely be interesting in terms of how we see an offensive game plan around our defense. Because who knows? I mean, the Redskins as of right now, you know what? We're pretty much done talking about this Bengals game. Jeff, do you have anything else to say?
I mean, I just going way back to your Terrence Mitchell point. I just loved the fire that I saw in some defensive possessions, and I think we just got to throw it back to because you brought up the face mask for Gustin, but I just think we got to throw it back to like old school AFC North football. I mean, we run the ball hard. We're hard. We smash hard on offense. Just smash hard on defense. Just lay the quarterback out, pressure them, especially in the division we're in. And with some quarterbacks, I mean, if you get a couple good licks on them with their play styles, Big Ben being old, Lamar running the ball around. I mean, I think if we play hard nose like old school Browns football, I mean, I love that formula. And as far as the defense, as a little segue, just taking the team that we're playing, like that variable out of it, we gave up 36 points week 1. We gave up 30 this week. Just give up less than 30 to the Washington football team, and I'm going to start counting that as a positive.
Right. That's actually what I said. I said that I was like 6 less points in the Ravens game.
It's true.
That's improvement. But I'd be remiss if I didn't actually say the one good thing that my dad was harping on from the game about the defense was they did have a goal line stand that seemed to last like an entire quarter's worth.
Yep.
Like they were down. The flags that got called down there and everything on that one series was incredible. But granted to them, they stuck in there and they didn't allow them to, they got onto the 1 yard line. Then they stopped Joe Mixon in the backfield. Joe Burrow incomplete pass. Joe Burrow, incomplete pass. They ended up taking 3, I believe, on that drive. But before that, there had been multiple flags. That was also no, it wasn't. I was about to say that was also from the Baker Mayfield interception. There was that point, and there was also the point that we talked about with Myles Garrett. The Browns offense was on the goal line, went for it all 4 times, didn't get it. And, the defense and Myles make a huge play, get the ball back for the offense, that strip sack that he gives credit to Luka Doncic for with the Euro step. That's pretty funny. The way he got past his guy and then jumped and swatted the ball from him was pretty sick. It was pretty awesome. But yeah, they had 2 really good possessions, and then the rest of the game was kind of shite. But
yeah, I agree.
But I think that's enough for the Bengals recap. I mean, honestly, very great to get a win. Great to get Kevin Stefanski his first win and everything. But we're on to the next one. It's been almost a full week now since that game happened, and we got the Washington football team up next. And the amount of times that I've wanted to say Redskins just throws me off with this team because they're just the Washington football team. But yeah, so to preview for this game, we should note that the Redskins are 1-1. They won in week 1 a phenomenal comeback against an Eagles team that I'm not too sure about right now. They're 0-2.
I don't think they're very good.
Yeah, there's something wrong there right now. Carson Wentz, I don't know. But they were losing that game at halftime 21-0, right?
Yeah, I don't think they had points at the end of the first half.
No, and they came back and ended up winning that game. And then week 2, who did the Redskins play? I'm sorry, I have it pulled up here actually. So the Redskins, and I'm sorry, that first game
or Cardinals. Play the Cardinals.
Oh yeah, right. Me and you were talking about that game.
Me. Yep. You said, are the Cardinals good? Yes, Cardinals are good, I think.
I was like, are the Cardinals this good, or are the Redskins that bad? But so you can see here. So it was 17-0 at halftime, and Washington comes back. You can see right here.
17-7.
17-7. But then they poured it on in the second half and ended up being the Philadelphia team. So we'll take a look at the stats here. So Dwayne Haskins, Ohio State guy, I can't really rip on him or anything. Didn't throw an interception. But 17 for 31, 178 yards and a touchdown. All right, not great. The rushing game here, as no one really Antonio Gibson and Peyton Barber, really not going to be worried about those guys. Terry McLaurin, this dude's a stud, but also an Ohio State grad. But
Denzel's going to lock him down.
Yeah, I feel like the corners that come out of Ohio State compared to the wide receivers are 10 times greater than.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I can't really.
Just the defenders in general, just the defensive players, just all around. I mean, the Washington football team is not better than the Bengals. They might be the same. I would put them on pretty close to the same plane, but I don't know, man. I like this matchup better than I did us matched up against. He's the defensive rookie of the year, easy, and defensive player of the year. If he stays healthy, defensive rookie of the year easily. Defensive player of the year, throw his name in the hat.
Well, calm down there. That's
He's got 2.5 sacks already.
Yeah. Chase Young, like you were saying, the defensive side of the ball for the Buckeyes coming into the NFL, very good. He's a monster. Their defense isn't bad. I think 17 points. It's far less than what we gave up. And then the second game that they played against the Cardinals are a very good team. I mean, I had them and us pegged as wild card playoff teams. And, with the addition to Hopkins, I think Kyler Murray is a fantastic quarterback. Him and Lamar, I think he's got better, quarterback-esque talent when it comes to throwing the ball and everything. Obviously, this is only his second year, but now he has DeAndre Hopkins and Larry Fitzgerald. Having Larry Fitzgerald, huge plus for the Cardinals and Kyler Murray, but they've just got a lot of weapons over there. But again, you can kind of see with Dwayne Haskins in this game, 19 of 33, 223 yards and a touchdown. Not great. Their running game put down 100 yards for the first time this season. Terry McLaurin, I said it once, he's a beast. But like you said, Denzel will lock him down. There's no chance this guy gets close to 100 yards. And then just again, we're going to look at Chase Young getting a sack here. You know, there's a lot to be said about us compared to them in terms of talent, because if you think about their team, their talent is Ohio State guys, which I'm fine with. I'm fine with saying that. But with us, we have talent all over the board, and I don't see this being as close as what the Bengals game was for us.
Yeah, definitely. A game we should win. I mean, I got it down as a win. In our podcast on 6/21, actually, when we went through our whole schedule. So I'm 2-0 on picking that thus far. But it's, man, this season, the way the season's evolving, I was excited for the Ravens game. I was more excited to watch them play the Bengals, and now I think I'm the most excited to play the Washington football team, just because we get to see some Ohio State guys, and just another matchup that I think is favorable to the Browns. I mean, kind of the same narrative almost as the Bengals. Outrush them. Baker's better than Haskins, and the only difference I would say is that Ron Rivera has the coaching edge. But I mean, if our offensive line stays up to form and one turnover maximum, I think that this is I think we win by a bigger margin than we did with the Bengals.
Yeah, I think me and you both had last week. Didn't we both say we were going to score at least 31?
Yep.
I think we just had score differentials, differences and stuff. I think for sure this week, 31-17 is probably very likely. I think this, like you were saying, and I'm really upset the way that the season ticket thing is working out in terms of who gets picked to select tickets for the game. None of the people that me and my dad go with got selected to get tickets, so we're not going this weekend. I would have loved to go to that game. The reason why is that this could be our most complete game on all three phases of the ball. Let's talk about the defense really quickly coming into this game. So the one reason we say that this could be a complete game, besides the fact that I don't think, compared to the past two teams, I don't think the Washington football team has a lot of talent to take advantage of our defense, is we might be getting a lot of guys back. So Mack Wilson has returned to practice. Greedy Williams has returned to practice. Kevin Johnson has returned to practice. Those are three starters. Those are three guys that are going to make an instant impact on our defense. Mack Wilson especially. He'll take away one side of the field at least in coverage. Hopefully they all play. I don't know the status of they return to practice, so that's obviously a good sign. I'm sorry, we're back. I'm going to backtrack here really quickly. In terms of talking about injuries and stuff, I want to shout out Chris Hubbard for coming in and playing phenomenally for Jack Conklin, who sat out that game. Jack Conklin, though, is returning for this game, so we'll have a full healthy offensive line. We'll have for the first time a full healthy cornerback rotation, which means no Tavier Thomas, thank God. And hopefully, we'll see a lot more of Terrence Mitchell. But this game, I'm hoping that, with a long week of rest, watching the game Sunday, you game plan and you put your defense in a position to make some strides forward.
I think this game's interesting, and I'm curious to see how Stefanski approaches, the rest of this week leading into Sunday, because the Thursday night game, the worst part about Thursday night is that it's quick turnaround. The best part is you get extra rest. So, I mean, I think that Thursday night game against the Bengals, I don't think could have came at a better time, just purely based on our injuries at that current moment. But at the end of the day, I don't want to be like a Debbie Downer, but if this is another week where Mack Wilson, Greedy don't play, like that's kind of cool with me. Like I would rather have them, be ready for the Cowboys week 4 than rush them back against Washington. If we were playing like, if we were playing above average team, an above average team this week, I would say, okay, maybe let's try to get them in there. But I mean, you're not even really sure, especially with no preseason games, that, getting our healthy starters back is going to be an instant fix. A lot of the defense is kind of collaborating with people around you, depending on who you're playing and what kind of talent is on the offensive side of the ball. So I don't think, just slotting our starters in is going to be like where you could just put them in and not be worried about it. I still think there's going to be some, growing pains and hardships, but I kind of like Brownies 28, Washington football team 17.
Okay. Yeah. My thing with the guys returning is I do like your point that I'd be okay with them sitting out because I don't think the the Washington football team it just doesn't roll off the tongue. Like, please get a mascot next year, whatever it is. But I just don't think that their team has anything offensively that's going to, challenge us any more than the Bengals or the Ravens did, especially the Ravens.
Yep.
And yeah, I would prefer to have guys rest up for this game. Adrian Claiborne, Olivier Vernon, don't really know what their status is, I don't think. And Jacob Phillips, surprisingly, I still don't know what his injury is, but he was working out on Monday, so that's a good sign. Him, Adrian Claiborne, and Olivier Vernon all working out on the sideline. I think, though, with practicing a full week, those guys that I mentioned before, Mack Wilson, Kevin Johnson, Greedy Williams, they're all probably going to play this game. And I think that's better because of the point that you made that, with no preseason, they need to get some competition. They need to get a little bit of a, refresher on, okay, this is how we stack up against other teams and other players and things like that. So I'm trying to think. My score from last week was 31-17. I want to say that again because I feel like that's, that gives us room to score a good amount of points and keeps them below 20, which would be a huge step up from allowing 30-plus games the past 2 games. I'm going to stick with 31-17 for now, and that's going to be my prediction for this game. But you're talking about, you love the fact that Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, and I love it too, except when I'm not playing against them in fantasy. I love when they rush for 100-yard and 80 yards or whatever it may be, and get 200 yards total and 2 touchdowns for Nick, and again 2 touchdowns for Kareem. But I would really like to. We haven't even talked about Odell. We talked about him the one time he caught a touchdown. He looked like Odell again in terms of where he was in the field and what he was doing after he caught the ball and everything.
Yep.
He had the one that it ended immediately after he got the touchdown, but there were times where he was in the middle of the field and then he would catch the ball and make moves like he used to. And I'm hoping for just last game to kind of carry over into this Redskins game, because the Redskins don't really have anyone in terms of coverage cornerbacks or coverage safeties that can really challenge Odell. So I want to see Baker and Odell to continue building their bond together and building their chemistry, and don't force anything, obviously. Continue to, do what you did last game, dink and dunk when you need to, pick apart the defense when you want to and all that, get it to a whole bunch of different guys. But I would really like to see Odell get to 100 yards. If he doesn't get a touchdown, that's fine by me. If he gets a touchdown, great. But the yards is kind of the factor for me for some personal reason. I think if he gets 100, then it really satisfies his, his hunger and everything. And it lets him know that he can still do this. And it lets him and Baker know that they can still do it together. And I would like to see Baker hit a 300 just to spite Colin Cowherd. But that's just my personal opinion. Jeff, do you got anything else to say?
I think the kind of like the still moment of that, the whole Thursday night broadcast, that that they showed, because you were at the game, so they showed our sideline, and it was OBJ on the left of Baker with his blonde hair, Baker in the middle, and then Jarvis on the right with his purple hair. And I just wanted to stop it and just print it out and frame it somewhere. It was legendary. But I agree with I'm not so much hung up on the yards as you are, and like the stats and stuff. But I would like one big play a game. Like that, the type of play where when we're home, it gets the fans hype, and the kind of the flashes of what we've seen with OBJ and Baker. I mean, we got a lot of big play potential, and I think that this is another good week. I know that the defensive line for the Bengals isn't, stellar, but I think this is another good week, especially with Chase Young, to really get dynamic and get creative with Baker rolling out of the pocket with intent strategically. I think that's going to be a good strategy to beat in division rivalry Pittsburgh Steelers with a maybe one of the best defensive lines in the National Football League. And I think that just kept the Bengals defense, on their heels the whole game. And if Chase Young is chasing Baker down and Baker gets the ball away before Chase Young can sack him, I mean, that's just even better in my eyes.
Yeah, and so the one thing I want to say about that is the defense for the Washington football team is slightly, I don't know. They're better in different areas. Their D line is, I think, going to be it's going to be better than the Bengals, and it's going to be somewhere near the Ravens. Chase Young, obviously, Ryan Kerrigan. The other DN that they have there as well, though, is very solid. Ryan Kerrigan plays that outside linebacker position very well. But then Landon Collins is a strong safety. So like I was saying before, I would really like to see them take advantage of the coverage, kind of do what so far other teams have done to us, and get Baker, up his volume just a little bit. You don't have to do crazy. Get him to like 30 passing attempts and get him to like 20 completions. That helps boost his confidence. It helps, the wide receivers and the tight ends. Austin Hooper, big signing. We talked about it last week. Didn't really get involved. Didn't really get involved again this week. Would like to see him get involved a little bit more, establish something there. But, maybe – and, again, Baker not forcing anything is the biggest point to be made here. And Kevin Stefanski calling a similar game to last week is just as important. And we could really – and I don't want us to go over too much, but we could really dive into – how Kevin Stefanski has schemed things up. And even, when we didn't have success with the Ravens, he schemed up play action plays that just created so much room for Baker to, take time and make decisions and everything. And then even with that wide zone running scheme, it opened up so many holes for, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. And God, the fullback position is a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. And I was praying for like one of those times when we were down on the goal line for him to get a touch for Andy. God, I can't say his last name. It's Gianovich, I believe. But I would have loved for him to get a touch and, maybe get a touchdown. But all in all, I'll say for going into this game, keys of the game, obviously – the Browns run the ball with dominance again. The defense asserts its dominance early on Dwayne Haskins, makes him feel pressure. There is the PFF that you sent me earlier about the Redskins offensive line allowing a lot of pressure to get to Dwayne Haskins. And, Eagles, they got a pretty good defense for the most part. And then the Cardinals very much have a good defense. I think we just continue the trend for them and get pressure, blitz him. That's the other thing. We need to blitz a lot more. I think we hardly blitzed in the last two games. We blitzed, I think, more in the Baltimore game, but definitely not enough into the Bengals game. Maybe that's because, you wanted to drop more people into coverage just because of the fact they were going 5 wide. But so, Browns run game dominance again. Browns defense established dominance or, establishes pressure on Dwayne Haskins. And then I'm going to say that Baker, keeps it clean and doesn't throw an interception.
I hope not. I really do hope. I think, I think Baker might be more liable to fumble this week, maybe. Hopefully not. Hopefully he gets rid of the ball and
Like
we
a
have him.
strip sack.
Yeah, and we have him. Hopefully we just have a good game plan. I mean, my keys to the game are just have the same mindset and game plan like you were preparing for the Bengals, and two, just short and simple, just have fun. I mean, there were times in this game, this Thursday night game, where both sides of the ball just looked like they were having fun. Baker was having fun. Porter Gustin and Terrence Mitchell were making the defense look like they're. Yep. When Baker does that,
I love it.
I
I
just
love
know
it.
that I know he's hopefully gonna
He's
go off. I
feeling
mean,
it.
yeah, just have good vibes. That's it.
Dude. So someone asked him about the whole feeling dangerous thing, and he said that's over now. I was like, I know he's trying to be more mature and like
I
trying to
like
be a
that.
leader and everything, but I was like, can't take that away. That's Baker.
That's old
The
news, though.
the
He's got to
the
find something else.
dude, the fist pump and him. You know what, the one thing I missed from being at the game was the fact that they didn't do the drums for him.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah, Phil Collins. Yeah, that's
yeah.
crazy, dude. I
Uh,
think I'm going way crazy, going way out of sorts now. I think he might have like facial hair superpower. His beard looked really good on Thursday. Any of that? There was that one game last year. He
no.
shaved at halftime and then he shaved before the dude. If his beard looks like it did on Thursday, I'm optimistic.
Oh, but that was the San Francisco game, I think, when he had
He had
that
a
crazy.
mustache at halftime and then
He had a handlebar. He had like a handlebar, and then he shaved it after the game and everything. And he looked in the press conference. He looked like he was just really defeated and everything. But dude, I love like I miss like the windmills and everything
Right.
with Baker. But the fist pump, when he did the fist pump, I was like, he's back.
Hmm.
That was just my sign that he's back, and I hope that continues. I hope going into this weekend it continues, and we need to get things rolling because we can't look past the Washington football team. But like you said, that Dallas Cowboys game is right around the corner, and they're a very good team, and so we're gonna have to put up points with the best of them soon. So,
Yep.
you got anything else to say, Jeff? Before I try to close this thing out.
Nope. I mean, I think that's a pretty good session from us, and I love the Zoom setup, the screen share Zoom setup. Let's keep it rocking.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a good setup. And with that being said, so I'm going to try to share the screen here. Try not to like read too much into my YouTube page because it's kind of new and I've been doing it strictly for gaming and other stuff. But so this is where I'm going to be posting it. This is my channel here and everything. Like I said, don't read too much into it. I'm not like a pro at this stuff yet. Hopefully I'll get there at some point, but if you want to look this up, I'm going to try to make the title for the video itself, the Cleveland Post podcast, episode 10, Browns recap, week 2, Browns preview, week 3. And hopefully you'll be able to find it that way. But if not, this is what my page is. This is my profile picture right here. It's just Justin Hero. And hopefully if you follow the Cleveland Post on Twitter, we'll tweet a link there. I'll tweet a link. If you guys follow me and Jeff, go check out our pages and everything. The link will be there at some point, or we'll just retweet and quote tweet for the Cleveland Post podcast page and try to get it there. But we will be, I'll be editing the audio so that we'll get it out the normal ways as well. So there's no worries there. But for those that are listening, there is video now, so it will be up on YouTube if you guys wanted to see the stats that we're talking about, or if you wanted to just put faces to the voices for once and check me and Jeff out. It's going to be there. So with that being said, I'm going to stop sharing for a minute and I'm going to sign us out. But Jeff, as always, thank you for being here. I always, appreciate your support and everything with all this. It's always great to talk to you and just, kind of have this thing going for us.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. I like this setup. I'm glad you brought this up. I would have never thought of Zoom, but you got it. You're the media guy, so I'm gonna leave that stuff up to you. I gotta check out your shoe. I gotta check out the shoe video. I gotta check out the Jordan.
That's a topic for something else. But yeah, I appreciate that, and it means a lot to me. So thank you all for being here. Thank you all for listening. If you guys could share this, it would mean a lot to us. Again, this is the Cleveland Post podcast, episode 10. we got a lot more in us, and there's a lot more football to go around. And hopefully soon here, the Indians will be, I say this, hopefully be going into the playoffs soon. We
Yep.
will get back to them at some point. And, the Cavs will have the draft at some point. But for Cleveland sports news and coverage, we're here. We're going to be here for a long time too. So thank you all for being here. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and go Browns.